Hello. If anyone is there in the chat, if you could just uh, post something, that would be awesome. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if the audio is all right. It's exactly what it was yesterday. It's probably fine. And I'll just wait for a second to see. Hey, what's up? Okay, awesome. Cool. So I figured there was some interest expressed last night about creating a theme from scratch. So there's a template that I like to give to developers that we interview at the agency I work for, just to kind of see where their chops are at. So I thought it would be really cool, and I've been meaning to do this for a long time, just to kind of challenge myself in a way, and like really understand what they're going through when I make them do it. So we're going to recreate this HTML5 template that's years and years old, but the first time I saw it, I really enjoyed it. It's really clean. It has an interesting layout. It's kind of this big hero, and then with a menu underneath it. And the content seems to flow really well. There's some different, types of content, so it's not just straight up text and images. So we're going to build a slider, and then there's lots of little bits for us to make dynamic, which I think will work really well, as well as a contact form to embed. There's just all sorts of good stuff in this one single page template that I think would translate into a miniature WordPress theme, and just a chance to kind of practice what we're working with. So I guess without further ado, we can go ahead and start. If anyone happens to be watching this and they don't want to sit through it forever, I am uploading these to my YouTube channel after I'm done. So feel free to come and go and ask questions. I'll try to explain everything I'm doing. And yeah, try and keep an eye on chat. So, cool. So I got a blank 2017 WordPress theme. Literally just spun it up. And we're going to do everything from scratch with Timber as well as Tailwind CSS. So I guess we'll just hop right into it. Let's go add a theme really quick. So add this theme. Let's go download the Timber starter theme. Which is a pretty good starting point. Trying to see. Okay, yeah, I think I can just download this. And there'll be a little bit of, I guess, boilerplate while I do all this, but it shouldn't be too bad. Get that here. And then we need Tailwind CSS. You could probably just use Tailwind out of the box. Let me double check the colors. if the green is close enough that I can deal with it. Yeah, I think this green is kind of right on the scale. Is it? Is it the PHP version? I guess I didn't realize it came from something else. Yeah, it's just sort of a generic handlebars-esque templating language. Yeah, I think this green is fine. And then let's also go look at the margin bits, because I'm pretty particular about my margins. Yeah, okay, it looks like they added a 3 and a 5, which is kind of the one thing I kind of wanted the last time I was doing this. Cool. Yeah, so I think we'll just start with the CDN version, and we'll go from there. Okay, so oh, let's go ahead and install plugin as well. Oh, goody, Gutenberg. Ignore that for now. We need Timber. I think this is maybe all we need for now. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and go ahead and install the Better Font Awesome plugin. Just because I know this template uses Font Awesome. Oh, actually, before I forget, I better plug my laptop in as well. 1 second. There we go. Cool. So then, as far as themes go, let's just rename this one to Buku. Do that, and then let's go ahead to the HTML header, which I happen to know is in here, and add the Tailwind. No, Tailwind is a utility framework, a CSS utility framework. So whereas Bootstrap and Foundation have a lot of components, pre-built components, in addition to some utilities, Tailwind is entirely utility driven. So, and also the way you use it is a bit different. Trying to find, let me see if I can find a good example. Well, I guess the homepage does a pretty good job. So in Bootstrap, you might just apply a couple of classes to each of these individual elements to make this kind of card, whereas in Tailwind, you're individually applying utilities to each different part of this card. And the idea being in that most projects that you work on, you're not having to rewrite this code very often. If you have more than one card, you likely have something on a server that's generating that template, and then you're putting dynamic information in these. So there's not a lot of like manual code code duplication. And then for things like your header and footer, you only have one header, you only have one footer, so you write these utilities one time and it applies to your entire website. With the idea being that if there's less CSS in your like kind of CSS file, that like different rules that you've defined, like eventually there's going to be potentially be a time where you don't know how all of that interacts together. By using a utility framework, you know exactly how the HTML is being affected, as well as you're confident about anything extra that you add on top. In a Tailwind project, you might end up with, less than 100 lines of custom CSS by the end of it. Whereas in a normal project, you might have, 1,000 lines of custom CSS. Well, it's a lot easier to refactor that 100 lines than it is to refactor 1,000, obviously. So yeah, if you go look at the Tailwind docs, Adam Wathan is pretty good about explaining that stuff. And he's got a lot of videos on YouTube as well, explaining how Tailwind works. So I like it a lot. Cool. So Tailwind, and yeah, let's go set up this bit. So we can go through and rename this, which I guess we will, to make it fit our theme a little more. Basically, this functions file, this is kind of where everything is set up. That's pretty, I guess, standard in a normal WordPress theme as well. You kind of declare, what certain features of WordPress that the theme supports, etc., etc. This just kind of puts it all together into a nice class that kind of encapsulates everything. So the constructor has some theme support, and then as well as adds all the actions and filters that are tied to methods on this object, or on this class. So it's documented fairly well. This context idea is something that is kind of the key to how Timber works, and one of the reasons I really enjoy it. We'll go over that some more later. And yeah, then just an example of how to kind of make your own Twig filters that you can use. So we'll just rename that. Let's go activate this theme. So turn that on, and then we should be good to go. Yeah, there's nothing here. So I think kind of to start out with, we're gonna maybe build this statically and then tie in the WordPress stuff a little later. So in that regard, this might be kind of a boring CSS video, potentially, or a Tailwind video for a while. But when we do get to the WordPress bit, I don't know if that'll be today, but eventually, I think it'll go pretty quick. So yeah, I think the easiest way to do this maybe is to start with a file, and call this template book landing page, maybe. Also add a Twig file with that same name, just for sake of keeping things tidy. Okay, and I'll try to do all this from scratch as much as I can remember. But I might end up copying and pasting just a little bit. So we're going to make a standard, or we're going to declare kind of the standard WordPress page template, which is just open PHP and then a doc block, and then type template, I think. And then I think this is it. We can test that by coming into the admin and making a new page. I'll call, let's see, what's the name of this book? Swiss Typography. Now eventually we'll have our own custom post type for all this. I think that will make the most sense. But just to test this template, I'm going to try this. Maybe it's page template. Well, that's embarrassing. First line of code. I was pretty sure that was the there we go. Template name. Okay. Template name. And there we go. And book language. So that should hook that up. Then we should have absolutely nothing. Cool. Now this bit I do kind of forget time to time. So copy this and then go through it one line at a time. So essentially this context variable. So you can name this variable whatever you want, obviously, but the naming convention is context. What this is this this method returns a bunch of information about your website. So it returns things like the name of the site, the site URL. It includes some information about the theme. It includes some information about plugins, potentially. We can go check the Timber docs. The reference for the Timber class. Get context. Okay, well, that doesn't have anything useful in it. But it's got a lot of information about your site. And you can also add more things to that context through a filter called Timber Context. So in this case, there's an example where, so every time you call Timber get context, that filter is going to run, and then these things, you can add things to it. So for example, you can just set an arbitrary kind of key value pair, foo bar, stuff, notes, and then include things like the menu, or include things about, you know, this object, and so you can access methods and do other things. Some things that I find useful are usually in your footer, there's like a year, like for the copyright, you know, year 2018, whatever. So usually I find it useful to kind of set this as set this here. So let's do a new date. That way you have access to this year variable in your templates automatically. And that will be included every time you call getContext. And then whenever you are working with an individual page or post or a custom post type or anything like that, you would add any specific things to the template you're about to work with in this PHP file. So in this entry. If you're familiar with the WordPress template hierarchy, the entry points for Timber are exactly the same. So it looks for if you have a page template set first, and then it looks for a page with a certain, or a PHP file called page dash, and then the slug of the current page that you're editing, and then just page.php. That falls back to index.php, and on and on and on. You can just Google the WordPress template hierarchy and some more information on that. Anyway, so you get this context variable, and this is the magic array with all this data in it that we're going to end up passing to our template at the end of the file. So then we have a post variable, which is called new Timber post. This will automatically try to populate itself with the current post based on the page being loaded. So 9 times out of 10, this is perfectly fine. Then we're going to add that post variable to our context so we can access it. And then we're going to tell Timber to render a template, passing in that context variable with all of this data inside of it. Context essentially has a lot of global variables in it that you can use, and then also on a per page basis, you can set more to use in the appropriate template that you're loading. So in this case, we don't need to try to dynamically load some Twig files for this landing page. We're just going to call book landing page.twig. And that should be fine. And then, now this needs to extend the base.twig, which is, there. So we're going to do that. And then we'll have a content block, I imagine. And just to start out with, oops, come on. We'll do an H1, hello world. Then we come here, load this. We're going to get a fatal error because I messed up the PHP date class. Okay, it should be a date function. It just says date. Is JavaScript the one that has a class? I think it is. Great. Extends. There we go. And load this up. Hello world. Perfect. Now let's go look at the base class, or the base Twig file, and kind of show where this all how this kind of works. So essentially you'll have a base template that all of your other templates can extend, but that also means that you can have templates that don't extend base. Obviously this can be named whatever you want, root, base, index, kind of the world is your oyster. So that can be really useful if you have like certain pages that need to look totally different and you don't want them to inherit anything from the site. Maybe you don't want them to have the same header or the same footer. It kind of gives you a lot of flexibility. But generally, one base file and everything extends it. Timber uses the Twig templating language, which is a handlebars-esque templating language. And part of Twig is this idea of blocks, and with the idea that if any of your templates extend another template, they can override the block in the parent. So in this case, the opening of base, we have block HTML head container, and then the end block is right after the closing head tag. So that means if I had a file, if this book landing page, I wanted to have a totally different HTML header, I could still use the same base Twig file, but I could overwrite this one section. So I'd extend base, and then I could do block, HTML header, container, end block, and then I can put an HTML comment here from the landing page. When we go back, look at this, and look at the source, you see from the landing page, there's not even an opening HTML tag, there's no head tag, there's nothing. We overwrote that. So that could be, that idea of extending blocks can be very useful, or overriding them. So kind of the main way that's used is for a content block. You can see there's a header block, which has some general header stuff in it, but then this content block, which by default in the main template says, sorry, no content. So if we ever try to load a template which extends base, but doesn't include a content block to overwrite this, this is what we'll see. So we can show that just by commenting that out. Reloading this, and we see, sorry, no content. So that idea is like I said, really powerful, and one of the reasons I really enjoy working with Timber and Twig. Yeah, and then also this idea, there's a sidebar layout, and then there's a footer block. You can do all this stuff. So, yeah, it's really neat. It makes working with this and kind of getting your head wrapped around it, coming from other things that are not WordPress, a lot simpler. Because no one else does, does development anymore like WordPress kind of is still stuck in the past a little bit doing vanilla WordPress development in terms of themes. So I definitely enjoy this kind of more updated approach. So let's see. We're going to, I think, take off everything. Just comment that. And then I think we'll just stick with the content block. This HTML header file, which is included here, calls the WP head function, which is where WordPress injects all the registered style sheets and registered JavaScript from plugins and things of that nature. So that's all useful stuff. We'll keep all this, and it loads our default style sheet. Does Timber Twig become an issue for heavily visited sites? it it can, I suppose, if you don't have any caching whatsoever. Timber is pretty good about caching some parts of itself under the hood. So if you call, um, if you try to query for a certain piece of data, um, it'll cache that value, and then if you try to run the same query again later, it will try to return that data first, unless you tell it not to. Um, but that's not how it works out of the box. But then as far as like overhead, I mean, there's not a ton of overhead to render this stuff realistically. Twig is very optimized for what it does, where it's basically just concatenating a bunch of stuff and then expanding a bunch of variables. Because that's essentially all it is. We have a big string with some embedded variables, and then it's kind of a find and replace of like replace this variable with this, replace this variable with this. So it's pretty quick. Like I said, if you're using any sort of even the most basic of caching strategies, you'll be more than fine. One thing I like to look at is, or if you want to be convinced of Timber used in action in terms of scale, let's see. Here we go. The Obama Foundation probably gets quite a bit of traffic. News at Northeastern, Spotify, one of their child sites, Harvard University Graduate School of Design, the NAACP, another college, quite a few sites. Full Frontal was at the B. This was done also before the 2016 election, I think. Maybe not. But this was her site whenever she was in the news a lot. So I think in terms of scale, it's definitely possible. And I would worry about other things before I start worrying about Timber and Twig. So there's a cool showcase in here. It gets updated semi-regularly too as well. So cool. So I think we'll just do this block content, and I think we'll just build everything into this kind of landing page file, and then eventually we'll kind of refactor it all out into where it's supposed to go potentially. Cool. So this should be fun. I'm also going to try not to look at the source for this at all. I'm going to maybe grab this font just so I have it, but Proxima, can I grab this from here? I don't want to use Proxima Nova. We'll try it. Let's see. Let's look at the network tab here. Reload this. See if this font is being downloaded or not. It doesn't look like it is. So maybe we can just use it. So, like I said, I'm going to try to do this without looking at the source any. And just kind of wait. Save a couple of these images. What is this? Oh, this is This is a slider inside of the book, or inside of the Kindle. Well, let's do this first, and then we'll see where we're at. So in the theme folder here, I usually like to have there's a static folder, another folder for images inside of static. Put both of these in here. That way we can access them from our page, or from our template. Should be good to go. There's also, I don't know if I'll worry about this background image. That's one thing. Timber and background images, I don't think they work super well together, but we'll play with it. Okay, so maybe let's do this. We'll kind of start here, and we'll kind of scaffold out some of this. There we go. So maybe we'll start with a div. Inside of that, we'll have h1, so Swiss typography, and then we'll have our image, our book. So using variables in your templates, simple as opening up curly braces, and then anything that's in your context is available as a kind of root level item. So you don't have to do context dot, whatever. Just type in whatever. In this case, part of the default context is some information about the theme, and that has a method on it called link. So using this kind of dot notation syntax, very similar to JavaScript, we can access things. So in this case, we're going to access theme.link, which is part of that Timber get context method call. And then let's hide this. Static images, and then book.jpg, PNG. And just because I know we're going to need it, I think we're gonna. Tailwind doesn't really have any CSS grid stuff right now, so we're gonna have to do everything in Flexbox, which is fine. That's the way things were until not too long ago. So we'll need a wrapper div. I just know from experience with examples. Period. And then a paragraph tag, we will copy text. Let's see what this does. This scrolls down. Because it does link to something, we can use an anchor tag. And send that to about, I suppose. About book. And we'll have another anchor tag. That will be to purchase. And purchase ebook. $11.99. Let's see, to do this right, I think we're going to need divs around these as well. So I'll just go ahead and do that. And I think that's enough to get started. I guess we'll also need a span around this. Yeah, I think we should be able to get started with that. So, cool. So now we're going to jump into the Tailwind stuff. Basically, it's just lots of classes. Now, by default here, oops, I already got it open. There's some stuff that's included with the default configuration and on the CDN version. So you've got a color palette that spans the whole rainbow. And then there's quite a bit of different layout options and typography options and borders and backgrounds and et cetera, et cetera. So, so yeah, we're just going to kind of get started. So we need a background for this kind of main wrapper here. BG gray darkest, I think, will work. And then while we're there, we're going to need to change our text color. Which is text. So then text white. And let's see, we're on the right track. Okay, cool. Yeah. Starting to look like something already. Let's figure out why we got this space up here. Is that just part of this HTML bit? So let's get rid of that. Class. Margin. So im dash 0, 0 p dash 0. Come on. Why do we still have this margin top? Where's that coming from? Oh, that's from our WordPress bar. Why is our bar? Why is the admin bar not showing up? Looks like we're closing everything where we should be. Yeah, I'm not sure. Anyway, that's from the admin bar. I'm not sure why it's doing that. So then we're also going to need to flex this. That should get us side to side a little bit. And then flex. So then items, center, justify, center. We'll put, we need one more div. I think we should put everything smack dab in the center page. Then let's see, we also need do the full width or full height. In height. Yeah, so then we're going to image screen, which will make this div size of the browser window not any taller than that. Cool. And then, yeah, so in here, we're also going to need classical flex. And then on this image, we're going to need a min width of 32, maybe? That looks about right. Yeah, it might be a little bit bigger, but I think that's okay. And then we also need to set a bigger min width here of maybe 50 or 1/2. Excuse me, just a width. Yeah, so then width 1/2. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, that's a little small. 3/4. Yeah, I think that's getting there. Kind of the same thing. Where that's centered. So then align, or whoops, items, center, justify, center. I'll move that over there. Let's do the margin on the book. I will want that 16. And I'm not going for a 1-to-1 here, but just definitely inspired. Okay, so one thing where we will switch here is we're going to set a couple of default classes or styles on the body, mainly the font family. And then now normally you could customize the Tailwind config to change this stuff, but since we're using the off-the-shelf CDN version for now, I'm not going to get into that. So that seemed to work, I think. Okay. Cool. And this one, let's see. Let's change this to max width. Whoops. That's not right. Okay. So sometimes the scales change on Tailwind from using a number scale to a kind of named scale. So in the case of widths, they're kind of more going for using this to like set breakpoints and to work with breakpoints. So that's why these are named rather than numbers, which makes sense, but it can be a little confusing if you don't use it as much. Okay, that's a little big. That looks decent. Let's do max width SM on this side. There we go. I think that looks good. Then font size, which I think is set text. Maybe it's not. Oh yeah, it is. Okay. Yeah, we probably want to go 4XL, and LG wasn't nearly enough. And then 5XL, that might be all we can do. Well, there we go. That might work. That's a little large, but I think it's fine. Need some margin on that. Maybe 4. Just right there and see. Yeah, looks good. This will be 4 as well. Let's check that. So we need to set the font weight to normal. And then we also need to set the color. That. Let's see how we do that. Font. Okay, so is that normal font style? I guess it is. No, because there's that. Oh, I didn't spell normal right. Yeah, thanks. There we go. I always wondered what it felt like to be on the end of that. Now I know. Let's see. So then, based on this, looks like this font is a little bit bigger. And then I think that'll help. I think that'll help our line width a little bit. So, 2XL. Uh, 2XL looks a little big. Definitely need some more line height, which is letting normal. Letting going to need some margin bottom as well. Lexor, yeah, we're using Timber and Tailwind. So kind of just converting this super old HTML5 template from way back in the day that I still like for whatever reason. Kind of doing it statically first, and then eventually going to actually turn into a working WordPress theme with advanced custom fields, whole 9 yards. So there's a lot of kind of interesting stuff in this template. Slider and kind of repeat content, so we can practice some repeater stuff and custom post types and yeah, lots of stuff. So I think it'll be cool once we get to the WordPress part. But for right now, just building this out statically and kind of going from there. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you have to go, these will be uploaded on my YouTube channel after I'm done streaming. So don't feel obligated to stick around. Though I would appreciate it if you did. Cool. So let's get back to it. Oh, actually, these are. I forgot about that. Okay, so maybe just one div for these buttons. I didn't realize when I had it shrunk a little bit that it went to a different line, but these are actually supposed to be next to each other. Let's do flex these. And with Tailwind, usually something like a button would be a good spot to refactor. But since we are using the CDN version, I'm not going to do that. There won't be that much duplication, I don't think. So I'm not going to worry about it too much. Just try to do this. Let's see here. So border white, border 2. I think is how you do border width. Border dash 2, yeah. Text white, and then padding top top bottom 4. That's not right. Just the padding value though. Come on. I always mess up the syntax on the spacing. So, oh, that's right, it uses the X and Y. Yep. So, PX 4, PY 2. Start there. That's a little small. px8, py4. Just looking closer, we need to do font bold, and then what is text decoration? That will be no underline. No underline. Cool. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So we'll kind of, so we don't really have to copy those. So this will also be text white, px8, py4, font bold, no underline, and then instead of the border, we're going to have BG green dark. I think is, okay, that's, there we go. Yeah, that looks good. The color is not perfect, but that's okay. It does look like there's a little bit of border radius on those, which I think is BR. No, rounded. Rounded SM is probably fine for both of these. Yeah, I can't really see those, but I guess it's fine. And then we will justify between here. That's a little far. Well, I guess we can do justify between, and then do a max width. It's a little smaller. Let's see what that gets us. Yeah, that's good. And then also want flex wrap. Okay, and then also both of those will need just a little bit of bottom margin. Margin bottom 4. Yeah, that's, yeah, I mean, we've been at this, stream time here, sorry, I guess Twitch can tell me, about an hour, from literally nothing to, and a blank WordPress theme to, you know, to where we are right now. Yeah, I mean, once you actually get into building it, I think that's where Tailwind really shines. You can prototype extremely quickly if you know what you're doing. And this is with me looking at the documentation literally every 5 seconds. If I had the stuff memorized from using it a lot more, it'd go that much quicker. So yeah, I think, oh goodness. Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the coolest parts about Tailwind. One thing that I really enjoy is, yeah, prototyping is just so fast. Okay, let's look here. So the 1199 is not bold in this bit, so we'll do font normal on that. That looks pretty good. And we'll also do a margin left of 2, and then we'll do inline block. I think that's, yeah, there we go. That way we can get that left to right. Need a little bit more space. I think we need a little bit more top and bottom padding as well. We'll try 6 here. We'll try upping this margin bottom on that. Yeah, I think that's a bit closer. Cool. And then, so what we want to do, flex grow. So we don't want to mess with this too much. We don't want this image to shrink as much as it is. Right now it's kind of flexing infinitely. And we definitely don't want that. Stuff, so OBS isn't going crazy in the background. Oh, and I did it. There we go. That's better. So we don't want that. So let's try flex no shrink on this. And that'll shrink that. And then on this template, the text just goes away, and it doesn't go anywhere, which I don't like. So we're going to take some liberties with that. So this, oops, this needs to wrap, I think. And since we have a min width on all these, yeah, that'll kind of go down. I think that works okay. So let's change this to max width LG. XL. 2XL. 3XL. There we go. And then I think we can give this bottom of 4. Go. And then we can also give this whole thing a P4 padding, 4 all the way around. Maybe more than that. Padding, let's do PY8, PX4. Yeah, that's better. So when you land on it, that's what you get. I guess we need to switch these a little bit. Yeah, we don't need this bit, I don't think. also need to, okay. So how Tailwind does media queries is pretty interesting. Basically, well, not every, most utility classes can be prefixed with some sort of identifier that tells it to only apply at certain sizes. By default, you can go small, medium, large, extra large to kind of play around with. And yeah, it's pretty easy to use. So in this case, let's maybe do large. So on large screens, we don't want it to shrink. But then once we get under a large screen, let's go ahead and let it shrink. Which it doesn't seem to be working. We also don't need that. Maybe. Let's see. So we get this max width of 30 rems. But it should be doesn't look like our shrink is working. Flex, no shrink. Maybe because that's not part of the default installation. Not all of the values are responsive off the bat. So maybe that's one of them. Could be. Yeah, there's our flex, no shrink. Which if we removed, I feel like it's shrinking, but it's not shrinking in the way that I want it to, I guess. No, it must not be shrinking. Let's try this. There we go. Huh. Okay, so let's try setting this on large screens. And then we delete that. See what we get. Yeah, I think that works out. Cool. Let's go ahead and turn this on. These fonts are a little big here. So I think we'll do text 3XL, and then on large screens we'll go up. And text XL, large will go up. Same thing with this one. We'll just do text normal. You can leave those buttons. I think those are fine. Yeah. When I work on themes, we are the client decide browser requirements. So normally we kind of, in our default contract, we specify browsers that we'll support for a project. By default, that includes the current version and one previous version. Unless the client requests otherwise, and then if they do, we charge them extra for that to make sure that it works. So currently, the only thing we have to support is Internet Explorer 11, Edge, current version of Safari, previous version of Safari, and then Chrome and Firefox. Since Chrome and Firefox are evergreen and Edge is evergreen, that's not really a problem. And then there is CSS grid support in IE 11. So we're starting to use it just a little bit, though the spec is a little weird. It uses an older version of the grid spec. So we just got to double check that. But Flexbox has been pretty solid since IE 10. And most people now who were on IE 10 are now on IE 11. And then even more people are on Edge. So yeah, it's just not something we really worry about. None of our clients are so big that they demand that kind of backwards compatibility. Though if that were the case, if we needed that kind of backwards compatibility, I would probably reach for something like an older version of Bootstrap or Foundation that I know has support for those browsers, and would kind of just stick with what that offers, just to save myself the headache of trying to work through that. Cool. Why is this not there? Interesting. Still logged in. Is it because we're taking off the base, something from the base file? Oh, it's because the WP footer function isn't running. That would be why. So we'll just throw that down there. There we go. That's so much better. Cool. So, kind of got a thing. It's responsive. Looks pretty decent, I think. Not exactly like this one, but pretty close. If we wanted, we could set the background image for this book and kind of position that, but I feel like that might be something you have to do a little more manually. I don't really want to deal with it. So yeah, let's keep moving. So let's use semantic HTML5 nav elements. I can already tell you that's going to be flex. And then let's take a look here. Let's go ahead and do the CSS as first. I don't know if we're going to do this bit. I don't know if that's super useful use of time. It's definitely possible, but maybe not something that we want to try to do with the time that we have. So let's see. So we got image. So we'll do theme link, static images, logo dot png. And then I think for a nav element, all you need is just anchors inside of it. I think. So let's do that. These are all going to be kind of in-page links. Views, author, and contact. So if you were using a CMS, or if we were in the CMS part, normally you would just define this kind of once, and then all these class styles would kind of get applied as the CMS is looping over the menu. We don't have that, so we're going to have to do it this way. I guess we will need a div around these, so that way we can separate them. Okay. Items center, justify between. Oh, actually, we're going to need another wrapper. Because this has kind of a fixed width inside of that. So this is where all that stuff will be. Flex, item center, justify between. Let's just look at that and see. All right. Okay, perfect. So I think we can give this a little bit of top and bottom padding, 8 maybe. Yeah, looks decent. And then we also need to give this a max width of XL. And then MX auto to center it. There we go. A little bit larger than that. 2XL. There we go. And then Tailwind has a shadow utility. So we'll try that here just to kind of see what we get. Oops, not that one. This one. And I'm also going to just give this a margin bottom of something really tall so we can kind of scroll and see what's underneath it. That looks pretty good. It's a little more subtle, I think. So we'll try shadow in D, which I think will feather it out a little more. Oh, no, that's not. That's too much. Yeah, that's fine. Cool. So we'll kind of get this one, maybe the first one, styled, and we'll just see what it kind of looks like. So it looks like text gray, no underline. Check the, let's maybe do, well, so the border we have isn't going to be quite that beautiful in its transition, because that would take some pseudo elements, which I forget. Maybe Tailwind does. Pseudo elements. Yeah, so that might be something you'd have to do more custom if you wanted to get that exact style. Let's see, text, Excel. Yeah, that's good. Okay, and then hover styles, hover text. Is it black or normal? I guess it's black. Text black. And then hover border B2, border green. Yeah, I think I messed up that border. Border color. Maybe I need to set a border first. Okay, yeah, so what am I doing wrong? Hover text black, border green. transparent. Okay. Some dots. And that might be another one of those things we just need to do. Style transition all 100 milliseconds. There we go. That looks good enough. Copy that. Hold those. And then they all need a little bit of just to make sure im x2. There we go. That'll work. I'm not worried about this little extra bit hanging off the end. It's fine. Oh, we need a lot more than that though. X8. Yeah. And if you want to, in your template language, or when you're spitting out these menu items, you could check and see if you're on the last index and just change this to, margin right or something like that. Okay. And then let's see here. This we're going to display flex as well. Item center. I guess we can use that instead of the margin. Instead of max width on this, and do justify between small u. Medium. I feel like something's not getting applied. Oh, I think we also need to flex this one as well. There we go. There we go. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so that's that bit. Then we can flex wrap this to get our mobile. Oh, there it goes. Bits. So some padding on this as well. Padding 4 to kind of keep that stuff off side. That's pretty good. We'll do a little bit of margin on this. Margin right 4. And then we can also do the margin bottom 4. See if that messes with. Yeah, that'll mess with that. I think we'll build that into these then. A little bit of top and bottom padding. Just so when they start stacking, it's fine. Maybe we'll also do a little bit of horizontal padding as well. Just a little bit, so, well, no. Can't do inline 4. Actually, let's do inline 2. But then, yeah, that looks funny now. Maybe we'll just have to do it something even on this one, where it's inline 4 as well. Yeah, I think that works. And I'm okay with how that menu looks. We could use the responsive helpers to kind of swap out things or hide things, and then when you worked on making the menu interactive with JavaScript, you could add some classes to swap that around and like show and hide bits. But again, I think for the sake of time and the kind of what we're doing, the bigger picture, I think that's fine. Okay. Let's see. So this next section about the book seems to kind of just be a static section with some really heavy top and bottom padding, and that's it. So go pretty quick. Section for this one. Two. Oops. Seems like a really long title. No JavaScript yet. Just CSS. And then even then, I've only written 6 lines of CSS. The rest of it's come from Tailwind. So. Good. that. Wonderful. So P, Y, padding, top, bottom. Let's do 16. I think that's what we want. We can also set the width on this one because there's no weird shadows or anything. Max width, LG. I think whatever the one we used on the nav, not 2XL. 2XL. And then margin left and right auto. So that'll get us in line with our bits. Oh, we need to remove this as well. Yeah, so that's not enough. 32. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I really like Tailwind. And the guy, Adam Wathen, who developed Tailwind, he's got a ton of videos on his YouTube channel of him building things. Basically, let's see, where is his first Tailwind video? Yeah, I guess right here, 11 months ago. Basically, from this video on forward, these are all, all use Tailwind in some form or fashion. This Netlify one that I most recently did is pretty good. I enjoyed it. Kind of the same idea, like rebuilding a page using just Tailwind. And he rebuilds basically that whole Netlify dashboard in an hour and a half. Not fully functional, of course, but visually, pretty darn close. So yeah, it's got lots of that stuff. Also, refactoring UI, another great series to check out. It's with Adam and Steve Sugar, I think his name is. Steve is the lead designer for the Laravel project as a whole. So really talented designer. He's got a lot of good advice. Him and Adam and Steve are releasing a book, I think, next month. Soon. And there's going to be like a lot of extra stuff to kind of go along with it. But design tips, screencasts, it's pretty cool project. Okay. So let's see. I don't know if I'm going to put this oops. If I'm going to put this little tablet in here, this Kindle, right up front, I guess I can. Link stack images Kindle dot. Wow, that is a big image. So this, I mean, generally the layout for this section is going to be kind of exactly like what we had above. With grid, I think it would be a little easier to deal with, but no big deal. So flex. Now one difference is this is not. Is it centered? I guess it is centered. Well, I'm not cheating. I guess that looks centered. I don't know. It's hard to tell. We'll just flex it for now and kind of decide what makes most sense. That's definitely way too big. That looks about right. R8. Let's do that on large screens only. Well, there's a lot more space there. So maybe let's not do that. Let's do medium. Let's do padding 16. It's a little bigger than that. Let's maybe get the fonts in. Text 2XL. 3XL. What color is this? Just black. Is that right? Yeah. No, 5. We'll just kind of copy the stuff from above. 3XL, B4. This text gray. Text gray dark. Text gray darker. Text gray dark. Padding left 32 maybe. And then I also need font normal. And we need a little bit more width, I think. On this one. That looks like too much now. $32. Maybe let's remove this mouse width. So let's do it the other way. Let's do this one. SM. Let's remove this one. Come on. Yeah, what is maybe? Oh, this is 50. Okay, so we can do it that way, I guess. Max width 1/2. And then yeah, I think that's a little closer. Okay. Loose. Oh, not that loose. Normal. And then we need to target both of these paragraph tags. The normal lettering as well. And text. So text gray darker. And then 4. Darkest. No. Darker. And there's more space between these. Let's try to loosen this as well. Yeah, there we go. I don't know. The font size is a little big. Maybe. Try a lead C. Yeah. What do you guys think? Good enough? Center this. Maybe this can come down one size. Oh no, I think that might be too small. Ah. What do you mean text inside? The text inside this bit? Inside the Kindle? Or what? Sorry. Yeah. So the text inside the Kindle would be with JavaScript. I'm going to swipe through. Yeah, just some sort of picture slideshow that would kind of be forced into that specific spot. Probably not going to do that right now. But yeah, JavaScript. Cool. Yeah, I mean, you could probably do it with live text now, like, because this template is from, I don't know, probably 2013, 14. I don't know. It's pretty old. So these days, yeah, you could probably do it with live text, and it'd be pretty convincing, and that would be pretty cool. But yeah, we'll see. Like I said, since we're using the CDN version of Tailwind, making some of these things is would be more obnoxious than it's worth to try and do right now. But anyway, okay, let's move on to this next part. Is this like a quote? I guess. So let's see. Block quote. Cool. Let's see. Class BG green. Text white. Text 2XL. Text center. See how far we get. Yeah, it's perfect. PY probably 8. We're gonna add a little bit in the horizontal direction as well for mobile. Definitely a lot more padding than that. 16. That might be closer. No, even more than that. 32. Yeah, I think that'll work. And we just need to set a max width on this paragraph. Max width SM maybe. Also do margin bottom. Just to give us some, oh, whoops. That's too small. Let's try large, and then MX auto as well. Let's try messing with the font size to see if we can get that to scale more. There we go. Perfect, really. It also looks like the kerning is a little different as well. So let's do tracking wide as well. Just to spread those out just a little bit. There we go. Also There we go. Super quick. Pretty darn close. Okay. Let's see. Reviews. Reviews. This color changes as well. That's interesting. Oops. So do that bit. So this, lots of padding. Let's get rid of this one, so we don't need that anymore. Oh yeah, let's double check the responsive bit. Oh man, we didn't do that one up there. Text, Excel, LG. That's probably okay. Also do LG on this. Do PY 16. So bump it down just a little bit. BG, gray, white. Just set this up and I'll go back and fix that bit. Max LG XL to XL. MX auto. There we go. Let's see. Flex wrap. Oh goodness. So I guess that was not a valid size. Let's see, so if our full thing is 2XL, I guess maybe we could just do width half. And same thing on this one. With 1/2. And then maybe give this a little bit more padding here. Padding right. 16. Might be a little much. Oh, we still, is the height getting squished? No, height is still auto. And we're item center. No, that's definitely getting squished. Hmm. Oh, it's the padding. Margin? Margin, right? Then margin gets into, yeah, extra stuff. So let's do this. Let's do LG. Then we can turn off flex wrap. Flex no wrap. There we go. See, since we're doing that, that'll force that to do. So we can do LG justify between, and do justify center kind of normally. Oh, wrong item. This one should be justify center. It should fill up this space, so shouldn't matter. Yeah, then we go here. Gotcha. Do that. So then we only need that there. Means now it should be max 16, and then LG ML 0. Do an MB8. I think that's good enough. That typography looks fine. Do a PX4 reviews. text 3XL. XL maybe. Less than 5. Nope, that's too much. We get these kind of review stars, whole circle things. Because I'm getting pretty tired, especially after last night's stream till 3 a.m. And I just got back from a WordPress meetup, so on the other side of the city. I think we'll do a couple more, another 10-15 minutes, and then we'll call it quits. See where we get. Oops. This color needs to be a little lighter. That's, let's see. So, put this in here. This will be our little star rating thing. Let's see, 4 out of 5. What are these? I think these are images. Oh no, they're just rounded circles. Okay, we can do that. So let's just do one of them. Class equals rounded full. Width 4, height 4. Oops. BG white. I don't see it. Oh, it's okay. Let's see. This needs to be flex. There we go. Then border yellow. And border 4 maybe. Oh, looks pretty good. Check the colors. Maybe yellow dark. There we go. Yeah, I like that a little more. Well, let's bump up that border width a little more as well. Border 8. That might be too much. We'll see. Yeah, it's, well, okay. So then what if we take this up to 5? Maybe 6. I think that's good enough. So for code night, I've used Tailwind for some personal stuff. I just like it a lot. The prototyping is really quick. Hello, whoop. So in about 2 hours, in about 2 hours, we've made this entire page from scratch using literally 2 lines of CSS. So the scaffolding is super quick, which I really enjoy. And then when you're using a CMS, I think a lot of the repetition that some people complain about isn't really a problem, because the CMS is going to spit out code for you in loops anyway. So I don't know. Yeah, I just like it. Use it a little bit. It's cool. If you want to see or if you want a more elegant explanation on why Tailwind is cool and why you should try it, Adam Wathan, the creator of Tailwind, has a lot of videos on his YouTube channel that I really enjoy. Let's plug this one more time. Yeah, so Adam Wathan, he's got a bunch of videos, and then rebuilding things with Tailwind. Hours and hours of content. All these sponsorship videos, probably half of them are front-end CSS stuff. So it's cool stuff. Check it out. So let's keep going. See, border gray. Oh goodness. That's fun. Why did that happen? Oh, it's because these are all opening. There we go. Next to maybe. Nope, that's too much. L2. That's better. Let's see. Flex. Center, justify, between. Set that text color. Text gray. Is that also, that part's bold? Text LG. yeah, I think we're gonna call it there, guys. Um, like I said, it's been 2.5 hours now since we started. Um, Basically, we went from a blank WordPress install to setting up Timber, and then starting on working on this landing page, completely using Tailwind CSS. I think we made pretty good progress. Made it, halfway down the page. It's fully responsive as well. Well, except this bad just at the bottom. But I think we made a lot of progress in, 2 hours of actual coding. So yeah, tomorrow I think we're going to try to finish building out the rest of this statically at a minimum, and then maybe start to look into the WordPress side of some custom fields for this template, and then maybe work on some custom post types to pull in these reviews and associate them with the correct book and all that sort of stuff. So overall, pretty happy with the progress we made in such a short amount of time. So thanks everybody for watching. Let's see, what is tomorrow? Friday. I don't know if I'll be streaming tomorrow night. Maybe. But give me a follow. And then make sure you follow me on Twitter as well. I'll try to let you guys know if I'm going to be streaming or not. If I don't stream tomorrow or this weekend, I'll probably be back Monday. But we'll just see how it goes. This is my second day streaming, so I'm still trying to decide if I like it or not. But yeah, any encouragement is welcome. Follows are welcome. And yeah, I guess I'll see you guys later. You can check out my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/DanSpence, I think. Yep. And the video from yesterday should have been uploaded, but it doesn't look like it was. So I'll look into that. But the VOD from today is gonna be on there sometime today or later tonight or tomorrow. So anyway, appreciate everybody who joined in. Fart Sailor, thanks for sticking around for the whole stream. And I guess I will catch you guys on the flip side. Peace out.